Hello, friends, and welcome to Sleep Tight Stories. Before we start, I'd like to say a special happy birthday wish to Archie from Melbourne, Australia, who has a birthday on September 27th. Happy birthday, Archie, from your mom, dad, and brother Lenny. We are back with another part of the magical Book of Dreams. Esther went through the portal and ran into Araya. Araya takes her to Eliza's house, but makes Esther feel like she is stuck there. Eliza takes her in and feeds her, and the next morning, Esther and Araya are on their way to find Gimbal. Esther hurries to keep up with Araya, who is not very happy to have to be her guide. They don't talk very much on their walk until they stop for a short rest. The Magical Book of Dreams, Part 14. Esther quickly gathered her things and waved goodbye to Eliza as she hurried after Araya, who seemed to be trying to lose her instead of acting as her guide, and Esther assumed her protector. What she needed protection from, she thought it best to not know. "Hurry up, great helpless one. We have a lot of ground to cover today, and the glade has a habit of swallowing whole those like yourself," Araya said as she raced ahead. "I'm coming. You don't have to be so rude. I could find the next settlement all on my own." Quickening her pace further, Araya said with noticeable disdain, "We don't always have time for the politeness and formalities like you people from Shirewood. Our life here is concerned with survival, not pleasantries." Esther kept quiet. She didn't understand the haste in having her leave so quickly. She had just arrived at Elderwood and had many questions for Eliza. It had seemed that Eliza had many questions as well. What had changed her mind? "Quickly, before I lose you to the clouds," Araya barked, breaking Esther's thought. Quickening her pace, she thought of all the questions she still had. Why did the map reveal itself to her but not to anyone else? Where had all the travelers gone that had come through before her? Esther audibly sighed, which caused her guide to look back at her with disdain. Coming through the portal was tiring, and Esther didn't feel herself or understand why. Perhaps she wasn't as welcomed here as she thought. Compared to the sights she saw before her, Shirewood was looking far more desirable than she ever thought possible. As Araya and Esther walked, the first hesitant light of dawn tried to pierce the heavy veil of gray clouds that hung over all the unknown realm. It wasn't successful. Instead of being vibrant and full of life, the morning was subdued, reflecting the influence of the queen and the artifact which had drained much of the realm's good magic. Leaving behind the motley collection of moss-covered stone cottages and the comfort of the cobblestone paths, they continued on a dirt path originally formed to allow creature-drawn carriages to carry goods. Now it was largely overgrown with hardy weeds, the one vegetation still thriving. Looking at the expression on Arya's face, Esther decided it best to not ask the questions she had just yet. A stream ran to the left of Esther and Araya, but its waters, once radiant and shimmering, now looked muted and almost stagnant. Still, Esther thought she heard it whispering old tales, perhaps remembering brighter days, perhaps warning her to go back. Esther knew that there was no going back now. There was no way home. Being brave, Esther tried to strike up a conversation and asked, "Is it always so gray here? Doesn't the sun ever shine through the heavy cloud and mist?" "No," Araya replied curtly. "No what?" "The sun rarely shines through these days, and there is no magic left to clear the mist," Araya said as she quickly walked, her eyes fixated on the path ahead. "Oh," Esther said, her legs already hurting from the quick pace. The village to their back had now disappeared to the gray, swallowed by the thick morning mist that, along with the clouds above, blanketed the unknown realm. While walking, Esther thought to herself, is the person they were seeking the same one who was responsible for her coming here? Whose book she had found? Whose stories she and her mother read? She had many questions, but their quick departure left them unanswered. She would have to wait for the proper moment to ask Araya if she knew Gimbal of Isle Doré, and if she knew of the origin of the book she found. Walking further along the path, Esther saw to their right the ruins of what looked like buildings for trading goods or a market of some sort, their once majesty now gone. The structures now felt desolate, the ancient carvings dulled and barely discernible under layers of soot and grime. The ever-present weeds seemed to fight to grow among these relics, and silver-bloomed vines struggled to cling to the ruins, their vibrancy dulled in the ever-present gray. Walking toward the ruins, Araya, her eyes sharp and scanning their surroundings, decided to speak. These symbols, brushing off some dirt from a particularly intricate carving, speak of a time before the queen, when good magic flowed freely. Esther leaned in, wondering why Araya had chosen to talk now. They are beautiful. Are they important? They are important to those of us who want to return to the old ways, to be free of the darkness that has captured the queen's heart. It's a helpful reminder of what was. As they left the ruins, Araya appeared to walk much more cautiously. The path ahead was clear, but something was troubling Araya. Time didn't seem to have the same meaning to Esther, and she had no idea how long they had been walking. Her legs were telling her that it had been a while. During their walk, every so often, Araya would pause, signaling for Esther to stay close. There were whispers about creatures lurking in the shadows. Are the areas outside settlements that much more treacherous? Esther asked quietly. Let's just say it's best that you stay close, Araya replied. In this grayed realm, the landscape seemed to mirror the drained magic, with lifeless trees and thorny undergrowth hinting at the danger that lay hidden. The land outside the settlements was not welcoming to novices, making Esther grateful for Araya's protective presence. What you see here is not just the queen's doing, Araya said quietly as they continued. It's those who follow her blindly, the ones who've forgotten the beauty of good magic. If we had hope, some of the light might return, and with light, good magic might follow. Esther nodded, her heart heavy. Maybe one day, this realm will find its light again. Perhaps. A short while later, her legs weary and pained, Esther slowed to a stop. "Can we stop and rest a bit?" Esther asked. "I've had lots of opportunity in Shirewood to walk and hike, but I'm finding it hard to keep up, and the jagged rocks are painful to walk on." With an annoyed sigh, Araya, scanning the horizon, pointed to a large rock beside what might have once been a tree. "We don't have much farther to go, but since Eliza treats you like a princess, we can stop and rest here." "Princess?" Esther asked. "Forget it. Princess or not, you must have made quite an impression on Eliza for her to have me take you to find Gimbal." "I did nothing. I came here in search of my father. When I was young, he left for this realm, and I've always wondered what was so great about this place that so many people would travel here and never want to return. And, well, I guess I found my home and its rules boring and too restrictive. I have wanted to travel and see all the mystical kingdom for as long as I can remember." Esther sat, glad to give her feet and legs a rest. "I bet you wish you hadn't stepped through that portal now," Araya said, her hand sweeping over the depressing landscape. "I miss my mother and worry about what she will do when she discovers I am gone. Even my little brother. I may have been rash, but I must find my father." Araya stopped herself from saying the name of her home, Lustrous, as it had been forbidden to use the names of old by the queen. It was rumored that upon hearing these names, the artifact would hear it, and bad things might happen to those who said it. "This place has been this way my entire life. I grew up in the gray, but have heard endless stories from those elders old enough to know just how beautiful it once was here. It was full of good magic. I suspect the other travelers, like you, didn't return because they could not." "How did you find your way here anyway?" Araya asked, her face more relaxed than before. Looking at her, Esther could see now that she might not be much older than herself. "It started with a book written by Gimbal. Do you know him? Is it the same Gimbal that we are supposed to meet?" Esther was getting excited that perhaps more of her questions would be answered. "I can't be sure. Gimbal is well known among those of us who cling to the hope that the old ways will return. He has done much to help us and is very resourceful, but I know little of his exploits before he came here." Esther sat quietly for a second. "Where exactly are we going?" she asked with a chuckle. "I keep referring to this place as the unknown realm. Surely the settlement we are going to has a name." "You must never say the names when we are on the glade. Though perhaps a superstition, it's been said that if the artifact hears the beautiful names of old, it will cast a spell on those who say it, or that some sort of misfortune will befall them. And besides, the settlement we are going to is temporary. It has no name. Gimbal created it to help protect those in need. Enough talk for now. It's just over the next hill. Summon up some of your princess energy and let's keep moving before the weeds take root around your feet," Araya said, the seriousness in her face returning. Esther got up, put her now heavy bag over her back, and painfully followed Araya further down the trail towards the settlement and hopefully actual answers to her many questions. A short time later, Araya, slowing her pace, asked quietly, "You didn't answer my question. How did you find your way here?" Eliza was rather secretive about the whole thing. The book I found detailed stories from many different travelers, but it was primarily a travel journal from Gimple. It was like he wanted someone to find it and follow in his footsteps. But it wasn't his writing that led me here so quickly. It was a map. Araya, slowing further, pointed into the distance, indicating that the settlement was just up ahead. "What map?" she asked. It was a map that was hidden within the book. It showed me how to find the portal and acted much like a key. When I arrived at the portal, it allowed me to enter, and then, well, I walked through. "Foolish little princess," Araya said. "And you still have this map?" "Yes, it's in my bag with the book, but it has yet to work since I arrived. After it showed me where to go, the magic it possessed disappeared. We don't use much magic in Shirewood, so I am unfamiliar. We prefer the ways before magic was so popular in the kingdom." "Very interesting. When we arrive at the settlement, perhaps you can let me look at this map of yours and the book," Araya said as she picked up the pace again. "Sure, but there is nothing to see," Esther said, trying to keep up. Araya stopped a short time later, looking at a chalk drawing on a rock. "What's wrong?" Esther asked. "Why are we stopping?" "We have stopped because we have arrived. That marking on the rock indicates that this is the settlement." In front of them, instead of the settlement, they were met with an expansive, eerily silent meadow. The area was now a blanket of overgrown weeds, dotted with wilted wildflowers that swayed gently in the stale wind. No traces of buildings, pathways, or any signs of life remained. The landscape seemed to have swallowed the settlement whole, leaving behind a haunting void in its place. "Where did everyone go?" Esther asked. "I don't know, but I think we are going to find out." And that is the end of this part. Good night. Sleep tight.